After the 100 meters last weekend, we celebrated the phenomenon, Usain Bolt, winner of the race of races for the third Olympic Games in a row, unbeatable and, above all, undrugged. After the 200m run in the early hours of this morning, we can at last celebrate the athlete, the sport and the man. It was never in doubt. As Bolt entered the bend in the manner of a fighter plane's classic curve of pursuit, it was already all over, nothing for the rest of them to do but admire his back view, a sight familiar to elite sprinters for the past 8 years, and get on with their private and irrelevant battle for losers' medals. Then the straight, when it was all about not losing what he had gained, and he didn't. No dancing, no histrionics, not this time. Everything was pared down to basics, just a long moment to admire and wonder at, and to give thanks for, the greatest athlete that ever drew breath. This time there was no feeling of relief, and no need to wonder about drugs and the sport's long history of cheating. For once, everything was simplicity itself. The 200m lacks the complex backstory of the shorter race, freeing us up to revel in pure sport, pure speed, simple victory and the unambiguous joy in looking at the fastest man in the world. Then came two shocks. First, the time, 19.78 SEC. Not fast, not by the standards of the great. Bolt's world record, set in 2009, is 19.19, and there had been wild talk of beating it in this race in Rio. This wasn't close. It was even beatable. But nobody did beat it, and nobody came close. Perhaps even in the most elemental sport of sprinting there can be illusion, the notion that whatever time Bolt is running, it's beyond the ambition of anyone else. They were racing for silver before the beat of the bank. The second shock came in the slow-motion replay, in the head-on pictures of Bolt as he ran his last competitive 200m. Not a grin, but a grimace, his face twisted in pain and effort. It hurt. For these last few meters, he really had to try, go slumming into the depths of himself to find what he needed to win. All great champions do that, but somehow we expected Bolt to be immune, to win even the last races of his astonishing career without visible effort, every atom of cool in place. But in those last dozen strides we saw the man rather than the pose, a vulnerable man, a man aware of his limitations, a man beatable but still somehow unbeaten. Bolt has always reveled in the illusion that it was all easy and that win, lose or draw, it was all one to him. In a way he's posed as the English amateur of times gone by, a languid aristocrat who never bothers much with training and has an edge over everybody else because for him, and for no one else, it's all rather a lark. Bolt has apparently rejected all the sporting lore we hear about in every winner's interview. He seems to have no focus and has never bothered himself with intensity. The glassy-eyed fanaticism, the edge of vomiting terror, the awesome weight of responsibility, none of these things have ever been in Bolt's vocabulary of behavior. Before the start he was as usual mugging at the camera, his eyebrows dancing, a man who has never known what worry is. With him, it's never about who wants it more, his edge has always been that he seems to want it less. Last night, that gorgeous illusion was taken away from us, and perhaps from him, in the last few strikes, but we'll not think any the worse of him for that. In this moment of comparative frailty, it was time to up our respect, not lower it. For he looked old, you see. After all, time passes for Bolt at the same rate as it does for anyone else. After a decade of unsurpassed and perhaps unsurpassable achievement, his body is beginning to cry enough. He turns 30 in 2 days' time and has already said that the World Championships in London next year will be his farewell. After this race, he said that he'll not be running the 200m. It's too far. He has already done what no man has done before by winning both the individual sprinting gold medals at 3 successive Olympic Games. It's enough, or almost enough, for he will run again in Rio for Jamaica in the 4x100m relay. 8/9 of the triple-triple has been accomplished. The last gold medal would be gloriously appropriate. Request to his teammates, don't drop the damp baton.